It's the fight we've all been waiting for. The Lightweight Championship of the world is on the line. It is Charles Oliveira versus Islam Makhachev. I can't believe we're finally going to get to see these two go head-to-head. Makhachev finally getting the shot at the title. And obviously, the title is vacant because Charles Oliveira did miss weight when fighting Justin Gaethje in the last one. But Gaethje could have won the title, but Oliveira got him out of there, and he'll be looking to get that strap back round his waist on Saturday night. So let's go to the tail of the tape and have a look at these two. We've got Charles Oliveira, 3 years older than Islam Makhachev, both 5 feet 10 inches tall. The experience level, more in the UFC, obviously, for Charles Oliveira. He's been in the UFC since 2010. 33 wins, 9 losses, 9 KOs, 21 submissions, and 74-inch reach. And we got Makhachev there, 22 wins, only the solo loss in his career, and that was to Adrian Martins, as we know, in his 3rd UFC fight, and 4 KOs and 10 submissions on his resume. And these two carrying in some amazing form coming into this matchup, and both on massive winning streaks as well. So we're going to have to see who really gets this one done, who imposes their will on the other one, and will the title experience of Charles Oliveira play a factor in this fight. But let's look at the last 5 fights that both of these competitors have had. We've got Charles Oliveira here. The last 3 times he's fought, they've all been for the title. Obviously, when Khabib, he gave up the title, he fought Michael Chandler and took him out in a 2nd round TKO. But it was amazing hands from Charles Oliveira, and he showed the heart that we didn't see from him all the way back in, say, 2016, 2017. He seemed to get finished easier. He wilted more. Maybe the birth of his daughter has driven him to a new high in his career, because he's certainly fighting with a lot more than he did back, say, 5 years ago. Dustin Poirier, we know, such a tough competitor. He managed to get him out of there in a 3rd round submission. And Justin Gaethje, I mean, he got dropped, but he still managed to get a submission win against him. Tony Ferguson, funnily enough, the only guy not to be finished by Charles Oliveira in his last 11 fights. He's finished 10 of his last 11. And Kevin Lee there, seems like an age ago, but Kevin Lee was being spoken about as if he was going to be the potential next champion, maybe. I mean, he had a really close fight, as we remember, with Tony Ferguson. I remember him mounting him in that 1st round, but then Tony obviously came back, being the beast that he is, to finish that fight. So an impressive list there for the last 5 fights for Charles Oliveira. We go over to Makhachev, and we can see here, not quite the same level, but they've been sort of building him up bit by bit. Bobby Green was the last one. Made light work of Bobby Green. I think he was a late replacement in that fight, but he stepped up to the mark and wanted to take him on and do it at your own peril, because Makhachev is no joke, and he really just made a mockery of him, really, in that fight. Dan Hooker, some might say, well, he's not the same since that Dustin Poirier fight, but he's still a really good competitor, and it was still a very easy round 1 submission against him. Thiago Moises, that was a round 4 submission, so he's proved he can go into those championship rounds to finish fights. Drew Dober, somebody who was on a real good tear and looking like he was revolutionizing his own career, and he looked like he had great hands, but it was no match for the wrestling of Makhachev, and he got the 3rd round sub, and Davi Ramos there in a unanimous decision victory 5 fights ago. Let's have a look at the achievement of these two competitors. We've got Charles Oliveira here, most submissions in the UFC history with 16 submissions, and this is 5 more than the 2nd place, Damian Maia and Jim Miller. They both have 11 submissions each. We've got Finished 10 of his last 11 opponents, as I was saying just before. Only Tony Ferguson went to a unanimous decision with Charles Oliveira, and it was pretty dominant. I feel like he let him off the hook a little bit in that fight. He was trying things, but I think he was just happy just to ride it out and just get a very comfortable victory over him. It was an easy day at the office for him. And the final one, 3 title fight wins. Obviously, the third one, he didn't make weight, but he still did get the victory and denied Justin Gaethje the opportunity of getting the lightweight championship. We go over to Islam Makhachev and his achievements. The least significant strikes absorbed per minute in UFC history at 0.84. I mean, that's an incredible statistic we have to take into consideration. Obviously, Oliveira, very good on the feet, very slick punching. We've got the Combat Sambo world champion, obviously Islam Makhachev, but not just that. He was also the 2016 FIAS World Combat Sambo Championship gold medalist as well. Not to mention a 4-time Combat Sambo Russian national champion. I mean, he's the real deal when it comes to grappling. Some people say he's even better than Khabib. And the last on the list, undefeated since his only loss in 2015, and a 10-fight winning streak since then. And something quite interesting, I thought, when he lost his third fight to Adriano Martins when he came into the UFC. And the difference between the trajectory of the two fighters since that fight. Obviously, Makhachev has now gone on a 10-fight winning streak and is now fighting for the title. If we have a look at Martins, and you see here, after defeating Makhachev, has not won a fight since. So I'm not sure what happened after this, but 2 more fights. He lost to Leonardo Santos and Kajan Johnson, and then he was cut from the UFC by the looks of it, and it hasn't got any better for him. So pretty crazy. I just thought I'd look into the background of his last loss, and how crazy is it that he managed to beat Islam Makhachev it was a KO from a punch, followed up with some shots afterwards when the ref had to step in. But that's what can happen. I mean, maybe that was the best it got for Martins, but Makhachev has gone from strength to strength since. Right, we're going to have a look at some keys to victory in this fight next. Charles Oliveira, obviously we know he is an unbelievable submission fighter. He's got the most in UFC history with 16. But his hands, I think, have gone from strength to strength, and he looks so good on the feet that he's knocking down people like Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler, Dustin Poirier. He's taken out some real hard-hitting fighters in the lightweight division, and he's slick. And that's the thing, and he's got a good reach. He's got 3 inches on his opponent in this one as well. Going to be interesting to see how it goes. So for my keys to victory in this one, I think he needs to keep the fight standing. That's my personal opinion. He's fighting wrestling heavy Islam Makhachev. It's going to be a real tough fight if he's on his back, because the pressure that Makhachev brings with that Sambo World Championship form, it is relentless, and he will have crazy top pressure. He pushes his shoulder into the neck. He does everything. Will he be able to avoid the submission? Quite possibly. He may be better at it than other people. That's the thing. And the pressure that he brings, or he may be able to get into positions where he's not getting submitted. Keep off the cage. This is another one I think is so important for Charles Oliveira, to keep the hands flowing. The lateral movement has to be good for him. He has to move side to side, does not want to get pinned up against the cage. We've seen what Khabib does. We've seen what Makhachev does as well. They get you against that cage. They get you on the ground, and then it's ground and pound, and it is dragging you into deep water where you don't want to be. And if any time when Charles Oliveira has looked weak in some of his fights, obviously not for a while, it has been when he's been dragged into deep water. And the last one on the list, use of the uppercut. I think that this is going to be a real big weapon for Charles Oliveira in this fight. Obviously, you've got a guy who's going to be shooting for takedowns, and one of his best punches, Oliveira, is a sneaky uppercut, and he uses it very, very effectively in a lot of fights to fend off wrestlers. And if he does a level change, he may well catch him with this. So those are my 3 keys to victory for Charles Oliveira. Let's move over to Islam Makhachev. Here he is. And the first key to victory for him, I think you're gonna see where I'm gonna go with this. I'm sure you know. Close the distance. He doesn't want to be on the outside. He doesn't have the reach advantage. Oliveira does. He's gonna want to get in close to even land strikes or to potentially grapple and get him to the ground. Positional superiority. And this is something I wasn't even quite sure how to word it, but this is what I'm trying to explain here. Is I think that he needs to get on top of Oliveira, but he needs to get into the positions that he's most comfortable in, controlling Oliveira. So he will just be in a position where he cannot be submitted, but he can dominate him from that position. And I think that if he's able to do that, he could drag him into possibly the later rounds, which brings us on to the last one, championship rounds. And I think that this is a key for Islam Makhachev. He's proved he can finish people in the championship rounds. He's finished somebody in the 4th round fairly recently. And we know that Oliveira, he's like a steam train. He comes out, he's swinging left, right, center. He is like a man possessed, and he wants to get it done quickly. We don't get to see him go the distance very often, and the only times he's really struggled was when he was wilting later in fights, in like 3rd rounds, when he was getting, you were noticeably seeing that he was tired, and you had people like Paul Felder finishing him, and maybe he squeezes too long on a submission, tires his arms out. And someone like Makhachev, you do not want to be facing him going into rounds 4 and 5, because he's a steam train. He'll just keep going and he'll run right over you. Right, come to the prediction time. It's the final part of the video. Who are we going to pick? Let me know who your pick is in the comment section below. I need to know all your predictions and what you think of mine. Well, everything taken into consideration, I think title fight experience counts for a lot as well. And I think this is something people aren't taking into consideration. I think Makhachev is the betting favorite coming into this, but everybody's written off Charles Oliveira multiple times before, but do it at your own peril, I say. I'm going for a Charles Oliveira win, and I'm going for a win in a 3rd round submission. And I don't think it's going to be a straight submission the way that people normally see it, where he's just going to be grappling with him. I think it's going to be set up with the hands. I think that he's going to be able to catch him with a straight right, something like that, maybe even the uppercut, and then it's going to go to the ground, and that is when he's going to be dazed. He's going to grab possibly a rear naked choke, whatever he can get hold of, and he will get the finish that way. I don't think that he's going to get the submission just from a normal grappling exchange. If you want to put a bet on that, I had a look at the odds on Oliveira to win by a 3rd round submission. It's 20-1 or plus 2,000 if you're in the US. But anyway, that's my preview of this amazing fight for the lightweight title. Let me know who you think is going to win this fight in the comment section below, and make sure to join us for more of these videos by hitting that like button, subscribing to the channel, and hitting the bell notification. Anyway, best of luck to both competitors, and I'll see you on the next one.